Welcome, everybody, to The Right Side Up. I'm Danielle Strickland.
And I am James Scholl, and I am the co-host of the Right Side Up podcast, and have been for like some years now. We realized I was like a guest
Yeah,
co-host.
I just can't figure out how to change it on the Spotify. Okay, everybody, it's just literally a pragmatic issue because unlike
My
that
wife and
French
my
guy
mother are
that
very
put in
upset. I am
the French
not
guy that on
represented.
horseback could put numbers in the Bible, I can't figure out how to change. Maybe I should learn how to ride a horse.
I
and I'll
need
get
to
better
work
at
on
it.
my brand. I've got to work on my brand, Danielle.
Yeah, brand management is not my specialty, James.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you. I cannot help you.
I chose the wrong Christian celebrity.
One time we will figure out how to do it. I'll tell
Maybe
you
by the
that.
time this is up, we don't know.
Yeah, who
Maybe
knows?
we'll
This
be
is our
this
AKA series, which is
also
also
known as.
Yes. I feel like we should do the right side up, AKA Boundless, AKA
AKA all the things. AKA,
all the things.
I will say this was,
Mind Blown, AKA
we did a lot
what
of
are all the
things, didn't we?
different
This,
Oh,
the things that
Principalities
we've
and
done.
Powers and the Good News. That was our latest series. Anyway, this is the new series, AKA. And
Okay.
yeah, catch up because the intro's amazing historical lesson on how the numbers in the chapter headings and the paragraph headings got into the Bible. So
And
that's
it's really
fascinating.
fun, and even though Danielle doesn't usually like that stuff, she really liked it. So
I liked
that's
it. It was history that I like. Kind of like those horrible histories. Have you ever seen those films? Horrible
Oh yeah,
history.
I love horrible. They
Yeah.
were based on. They had books called Horrible History, which I
Yeah.
fully. I think that's why I love history, is because I inherit
Yeah, I mean,
all
I've
of
got
those books as, like,
a
a
son
10-year-old.
majoring in history right now, and I have a hunch it's to do
It's
with
'cause
those
of
sort of
horrible
things
history.
in his life too. Yeah. And so
But
we
this
did.
isn't horrible history. This is great history. This
Yes,
is the best
this
history.
is the Bible. And our last one was AKA, it was Jesus Walks on Water, AKA Peter Walks on Water, AKA How to Walk on Water, AKA How to Get to the Other Side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and what that does is show you actually that each of those subheadings kind of directs us a little bit. And it doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but it does mean that they're limited. It means that they limit our imagination to what the passage we're reading can be about. And what we get to do here is we get to expand that, and it's good to have permission to do those things. Remember, those subheadings weren't put there in the Bible until quite recently. They were put by people who, for the most part, we believe were trying to be helpful. And on one level, they are kind of helpful, but it does still direct us a little bit, maybe more than they're supposed to.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And also they're not the Bible. Like, so that's, just keep that in mind.
The main
I'll keep
thing
saying that.
there.
That's not thus saith the Lord. That's just like helpful paragraph headings so that it will direct you. But we want
They're
to
like
explore a little
arrows
bit more.
to the Bible, which is great, but not the Bible, obviously.
Yep. Yep, and it matters who made those. And it also, I think it's a beautiful exercise to reconsider them and maybe try your own on for size. And this is, one of the beautiful Ignatius practices of reading the Bible, where you try to imagine yourself in the text and different characters, and then like what comes up for you in that way. That's one of my favorite ways of reading the Bible, actually. It's just like, what would this story be like and feel like if I was in this story as this person? Then what would this feel like if I'm in this story as this person? And you just can kind of go through stories like that. And it can be a really beautiful way of exploring sort of like the text in different ways. So, yep. What are some other Bible reading tips, James?
Well, I think, and just something to remember, is that sometimes the people that have put those subheadings in our Bible possibly experience scripture from one perspective. So even though there are a lot of people in the room, not many people were reading the story of Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, who were translating the NIV, who had any experience, I mean, really as any of those three people, but certainly not as the one with the least power as Hagar. And what does having someone who understands Hagar's experience better, what subheadings might they put in the Bible, for example? So we get to talk about another woman who has no power in probably my favorite story in the whole Bible. And Danielle's going to read that to us.
Yep, in John 8. And John chapter 8, verse 1 starts in the middle of a sentence. just to reiterate that these
I
numbers
just
were
made
put in
this up.
there by a Frenchman on a horse. Okay. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus went down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin."
So, as I say, this is my favorite story, I think. Whenever you have heard this or seen this with a subheading in the Bible, Danielle, what audience had you seen it as? And Danielle, what had you seen this as?
Oh, it's always called the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah, that's been my
Always.
experience too. So there's really two things now. Either it's the woman caught in adultery, or they won't put a sub heading at all. And the reason for that is because there's some conversation about how late this passage is. Some people say, it was added to the Bible a bit later. And so, should we even kind of give it a title? But what's really interesting
Well, because
is,
your titles are just biblical. Like even
Yeah.
that idea, like that sort of like, oh gosh, the boldness, the
Yes.
brazenness of suggesting that it's not worthy of you titling is also fascinating in light of you titling other things. Anyway, but
because
also
weirdly, Jesus's radical compassion is really uncomfortable for some people that like to. Yeah,
and
put
this is
subheadings in Bible.
italicized often, which is, and there'll be a little note
for
that
that same
says, there's
Yeah.
some debate about like, is this story, canon?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is that, and this isn't the point of the conversation today, like, what part of this story is controversial to you? Is it Jesus's radical compassion? Is it Jesus siding with an oppressed person against the religious elite? Like, that's just the book of John and most of the gospel. Like, there's
Right.
nothing. This is
Yeah, what about the
anyway.
story is not in keeping
Yeah.
with the witness of Jesus and
What
all the
part of
other
this
stories?
reveals Jesus that is not revealed on every other page
That's
of the
right.
Bible? I think that's
That's
what's
interesting.
interesting to me.
Yeah,
I
but
think
we're going to
that,
pick this story to be controversial. Like that is an
Yeah.
interesting thing. We're picking this one because okay.
because it's, again, Jesus's radical compassion is just difficult for people to deal with. And again, I will say this as someone who fully believes in Jesus's radical compassion. I do struggle with receiving that for myself and sometimes for other people as well. So, hey, I get it. It's uncomfortable seeing Jesus's radical compassion and stance against religious elites, but sorry, you're in the wrong religion if that's not what you want. So that's where we're going. I think this is so when I preached on this, I called this not the woman caught in adultery, but the men caught in hypocrisy. Why don't we shine the light on them for a little while? Because actually, they do take up a whole chunk of this scripture. The whole reason this comes about isn't because a woman who may or may not have done this thing. It's that the text tells us they did this in order to trick Jesus. Literally, this whole thing comes about because there are people who are clearly uncomfortable with how merciful Jesus is. I mean, the irony of this is not lost on me for today. But
And that's worth reading chapter 7 because all of chapter 7 is basically just the religious leaders having a fit about Jesus.
yeah. Right
So this
at
is
the
that
end of
context
chapter.
because for some reason our chapter people put the chapter in the middle of the sentence from chapter 7. So make sense. But anyway, I'm sure it made sense with scrolls and printing in 1600 or whatever.
Don't give them that much credit, Danielle. I think it's just, it's so interesting to me that why do we focus on that? Especially as it's not like these folks are giving a lot of time or attention to women. But when it's a woman that's done something wrong, oh, that's all we can focus on. Again, isn't it interesting? Even though, what does Jesus say? Well, I don't condemn you. So why are we focused so much on this uncondemned woman and not this incredible lesson that Jesus teaches to these religious elites? I think what I love about this, and I don't know, you're more famous than I am, Danielle, so you have to deal with these kind of things more. I think what's really interesting to me is that this story to me gives us permission to just not engage. When someone comes and wants to talk in bad faith, is just looking to start an argument, is looking to trip us up, is looking like, well, if you said this and what about this, but isn't actually looking for a good-natured conversation held in good faith. Jesus doesn't really engage very much. Jesus says one line in this whole thing. And I think there is a real permission for all of us there as well to like, you know what, I could just walk away. I can just walk away. I don't have to be stuck in the midst of this. Now, this isn't to say with people that we really care about or anything, but I think especially with things online right now and the amount of vitriol that is spewed online, the latest stat I saw is that something like 75% of Twitter posts are done by bots. So not even by like real people with real opinions. And yet we get sunk in trying to reason with those folks who can't be reasoned with. And I think this is kind of what Jesus is doing here. Is like, I'm not going to try and reason with people that can't be reasoned with. And also, actually, you don't matter. This woman matters to me. So like I'll spend more time with her than I will with you.
Yeah, that's a powerful, like that power of the pivot, I think I would
Yeah.
call that, where like they're trying to get him into a religious conversation and argument. And then Jesus does this incredible,
Yeah.
supernatural and very natural pivot. So he pivots the conversation. He does this with the Samaritan woman as well, quite powerfully, where there's just this pivot that happens where he gets to actually, let's do the deep. And I wonder if even just sticking around because there's a woman stuck in this and being used in this scenario yet one more time, right? So let's let religious leaders use women as a scapegoat for their own hypocrisy one more time, And so I wonder, like Jesus might have walked away, and maybe he didn't walk away because he wasn't prepared to walk away from a woman being used one more time by religious leaders. So that's an interesting, like why we stick around and where we choose to stick around and with whom we choose to align ourselves when we're in those situations where people are obviously not in good faith in the conversation and you somehow are able to pivot to the person that matters the most. Anyway, there's probably some really cool lessons just in that. How do we pivot, James, a little better to the deeper things, the things that matter, and in the direction of the people who matter and who are there in good faith?
And it's so creative as well. I think that's what I love about it. Because again, can you imagine this? If this were to be like an internet argument, then they would have said, well, our law says that we should stone such a woman. What do you say? And then Jesus will say, well, doesn't the law also say that we should be merciful? And they go, wow, but the law... And then we just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about what the law says. And no one's really interested in what the other person has to say. They're just interested in having as much ammunition in their Bible verse gun as they can, and yet no one's heart is being changed there. And more to the point, this woman remains ignored in that thing. Like we just argue
And
about it
stuck.
whilst this poor
She's
woman is
stuck.
stuck
Yes.
and not helped and exploited. And again, if me
Probably
jumping into-
naked.
yeah, we don't know. It's definitely awful though. And again, there's all kind of commentaries like, why isn't the man there? Like, why isn't that? And women really didn't have enough power back then.
Because
like,
if she was caught in the act of adultery, there's another person. Where's
presumably,
that person?
yeah, it takes two to tango, so I'm
Right.
told.
So there's no guy, there's only
Yeah.
a woman, and she
Yeah.
has literally no rights, and she's now threatened to be stoned.
Yeah, to be executed for this. And again, executed.
Which, by
not
the
because-
way, this scene seems like absolutely outlandish to us and is happening every day
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
Just for the record, like in Afghanistan, I literally just watched a video of a woman that was accused of adultery and stoned in Afghanistan just the other day. They bury her halfway to the ground so she can't escape, and then they literally heap stones on her until she's dead. And that's now the law. You can do that, is like law now. It's not even just like some tribal chief in some outback place. This is like a country passed a law that you can kill and beat women, which would have been like law this time too. This would have been part of
Yeah.
the women had no rights, women had no voice, women had no way to defend themselves. And that's who we're talking about here. So even just that idea, like I think sometimes we bring our lenses to the story a little too much. And so we're
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, this is just a woman who's, had an illicit affair. That's what, people translate this. And now she's been caught in this illicit affair. And then this is this. And it's like, even leaders that I've talked to about this in terms of like clergy sexual abuse, this will be well, even Jesus said she should go sin no more. As though like
Oh, they
Jesus is
love that
correcting
bit. They
her.
love that, don't they? They love that. Oh
Yeah,
man.
and I was like, I'm not sure that's the point of the
Like,
story. Like
that's your takeaway.
but it is if you're focused on the adultery and the woman, which is the the
Yeah.
adulterous woman, if that's your focus, then that's what you're looking for instead
Yeah.
of hypocrisy, leadership, responsibility, and extravagant grace and freedom for the woman.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because the kind of go and sin no more, go and leave your life of sin, we can read that as corrective, and I'm sure it is on some level, but it's also just really good advice. Like, that's just like a great piece of advice. Like, just don't go and sin. That's just like not great. It like hurts you and it hurts other people and it hurts the planet. And don't do that. That's just solid advice that I think Jesus says to me every morning. And there's days I do better and there's days I do worse. But this idea that like, well, she's just as bad, really. Like, no, what are you talking about? People
I
love
think
to
to
focus on
the
these things.
Yeah, I think also like for me, even your life of sin, like, we have such an individualized idea of sin, where it's
Yeah,
like, and
yeah,
again, we've just
yeah,
talked about this woman doesn't have any choices. Like,
yeah,
even like, I talk a lot to people about Jesus's words on divorce. When Jesus is talking about divorce, he's not talking to women.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They don't
yeah.
have any rights to divorce anybody. Like that's not who
Yeah.
he's talking to. So what is he like? And what is he actually trying to say to people who are using, this technique in order to?
Yeah.
So I think when Jesus speaks to the woman and says, "Leave your life of sin," I wonder actually if we can even imagine sin as something that we participate in, but also something that happens to us. Like we're caught in cycles that are sin is a cycle of oppression, right? That lives
Yeah.
inside of us, but also is operating when we say we're born into sin. It doesn't mean like we're born well, depends on which theology you believe,
Not the
but it
long
means that
ones.
we're born into a broken system, right? A fallen system. So the
Yep.
sin is a system that actually tries to trap us in its grip of oppression. So it's internal, but it's also external. So partly me, I sometimes wonder, like, go leave your life of sin. Like, I wonder if there's a possibility for her then to be empowered to
Yeah.
say, maybe I can live differently. Like, maybe I don't have to live at the expense of these idiot guys who,
Yeah.
trap me in these stupid situations and leave me stranded when I'm in need and
Yeah.
have zero compassion for my actual well-being. Or even eyes to see my personhood. Like, is that the invitation Jesus is giving this woman? I mean, I don't know, but it's worth thinking about.
I used to be obsessed with like what Jesus wrote in the sand. Like that was the bit
Yeah,
I focused on. I was like, what does it mean? What does it mean? And like
it
the
is
more I
pretty
kind of
curious.
again, I'm like, here's the thing. Like here's what I've realized. The I don't know, the biblical scholar in me is like fascinated because I'm like, what what could it be? What would be the undoing? But like the pastor in me now doesn't care at all because it doesn't matter. Like what matters is there's a woman there who has been like exploited and mistreated and now threatened with execution. So that it doesn't matter what he wrote. Like all that matters is that he does what needs to be done to get these guys out of there. And again, that permission to not engage that much. Like he writes some stuff in the sand, he stands up and says, "So who's without sin?" And then he goes down again. Like that's
But then
all.
he goes down again. What is the deal,
I
James?
know.
I mean,
Okay, I know.
I know that the point of the story is that he's liberating, he's freeing, there's definitely an act of solidarity with the woman.
Yep.
So I would say like that's an important thing. Like, and that could even just be like Jesus' solidarity with women trapped in cycles of oppression. That would be a
Yeah.
nice subtitle, aka Jesus is with women stuck in
Yeah.
abusive systems.
Yeah.
Or Jesus,
Jesus
gives
sees women for their
freedom.
complete selves.
Yeah,
Jesus,
Jesus gives freedom to women trapped. You know,
Jesus
like it
sees
could
women
just be
for all
that.
they can be. Again, right? Like
Yeah.
again, this is what Jesus does: is he sees women for so much more than the way that they are seen by their society and by
Yeah, what
and
maybe
by
Jesus
the
sees through
religious
religious
ways.
disguises or like, you know, anyway, there's a lot of AKAs. It would be nice if this was a live show and people could be like, "Hey, what about this? What about that?" Because this would be a fun exercise to
Hey,
do.
maybe
But
yeah,
have
maybe
some,
later.
take some time today to do this. Like, what else would you call this? I am interested. So, a couple things I've heard about the sand. You know, you hear the ones where it's like he's probably writing their sins
Yeah.
because he knows. You know, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
There's something about the positioning, though. There's something about Jesus getting low,
Yeah. Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
religious people being high. So there's something I've heard a lot about this positioning. So Jesus goes low, and the assumption I think in the text is that the woman's down there,
Yeah. 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 I think
that
so.
the religious
Yeah.
leaders are standing, and the woman is probably cowering, and Jesus goes
Yeah.
low. So
Yeah.
even maybe he's not writing anything; he's just coming up with an excuse to get beside the woman, so she's not alone.
Ooh. Oh, so like what he writes
Maybe
is
he's drawing
irrelevant.
pictures of
Yeah.
giraffes. You know, maybe he's
Yeah.
writing a thing to her. Maybe the
Yeah.
message is to her, and he's just coming up with some sort of like a pivot to get to her in the midst of this. I mean, I don't know. What's he writing? We don't know. And I guess we don't need to know. It's not in the text. But I do think it is an interesting. So he's pivoting not only from the conversation that doesn't matter and isn't even done in good faith. He knows this. But he's pivoting so he can get to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is a solidarity move here that is
Yeah.
missing
Yeah.
in most leaders' playbook.
Mm, mm.
And again, I mean, we could talk, we literally did a whole season on this,
Yeah, we did.
called All the Things We Can't Stand About Clergy Sexual Abuse. And,
People got really mad at us for it.
but this is, you know, this is interesting because we've seen this as the adulterous woman, the woman caught in adultery. That's how we frame this, or
Yeah.
it's been framed for us. We haven't seen it as Jesus in complete solidarity with women trapped in abusive cycles. Like
Yeah.
we have, with
Yeah.
what would
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
like, how would it have shaped our reading if we had have seen, oh, Jesus stands with or kneels with women who are accused
Yeah.
and, you know, stuck in trapped by religious leaders. Like this is like
And
massively different if you read it through that lens.
and we see nowadays as well. And I want to be absolutely clear: no one should be executed for anything ever. That is a stance I hold to quite tightly. But in countries like Afghanistan, where women do not have rights, don't think that there has been a good judicial process here. Like, don't even give the Afghanistan. Don't give them
Well, you
that
could just,
much
if you don't
credit.
want to make it that far away, just make it an Epstein victim.
Yep, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Just
Again,
make it an Epstein victim who's been accused of being,
yep,
you know, a prostitute or, you
yeah,
know, one of those young women that just want to make it rich and be with celebrities and not actually completely ignore the oppressive cycle that all of them got trapped in through a very strategic and well thought out grooming process.
yeah.
And
The power
whose
and
testimonies have been ignored,
yeah,
whose voices have been silenced, literally some of them killed. We don't even
yep.
know how many, but some of them killed, and some of them have killed themselves just through the process. I mean, it is outrageous. And so even that, just right now, where is Jesus?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, he's not having conversations with religious people about like adultery and what women are wearing
yeah. Like,
these
oh
days that
well,
are
was it
tempting
appropriate,
men.
or maybe they could give consent? You know, that yeah. If that you think that's the conversation that Jesus is happening, not just the unbelievable grief, just overwhelming grief at it. Yeah, and isn't it even that funny as well? How little we focus that. We need to release the files. I'm like, or we could just listen to the women who've told us what happened and believe them. Like,
Okay, here's another little interesting thing about the text. So if you just read one, so forget the chapter heading, because that's what we're doing. Erase the chapter heading, which is going to say dispute over Jesus's testimony. So just erase that for a second and just read the verse. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Do you think that there's a connection between what he's just done
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
sentence that is, he is the light of the world, and there won't be any more darkness. Because what he's done is he's just exposed the dark plan
Yeah.
and the evil intention and the sin in
Yeah.
everybody's life. Like this, whoever's without sin cast the first stone, like, and at one by one. And I think that's interesting. The oldest guys go first. I don't know
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
significance of that is, but I guess they're the first to admit it, or they have the most sin. I don't know. I don't know why the oldest guys go first, but there
Yeah.
is like this sound of stones dropping, right?
Yeah.
Because the lights come. And I think there's something beautiful about that. Even just like maybe that's not a dispute, maybe that's a lesson. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the takeaway, is Jesus is the light. There's no darkness in him. We're not going to pretend. There's no there's no more hypocrisy. We're not pitting us against them anymore. Like that's not happening. It can't happen on the
Yeah.
light.
Yeah. 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 Well done. Yeah. I think this is it that,
So maybe Jesus exposing the darkness is the chapter. Maybe it's AKA Jesus exposes the hidden agenda of
Jesus
religious
shows
leaders.
Jesus shows his creativity again. Like we get stuck in these false binaries that like, well, if they say this, I have to say this, or I have to counter argument. And Jesus is just so majestic and brilliant and creative. Again, isn't it excellent the way that we see this thing play out? That I wish I could hear this story for the first time. I wish I like knew Jesus as well as I did and loved Jesus as much as I do. And then I got to hear this story too. And it's like, wow, like, yeah, just another revelation of, but I guess it's probably quite
That's
equivalent
also
to
a
me.
really good way. Like that's actually a really fun. That's actually, I think, probably partly why I have an affinity towards The Chosen as well, is because I watched The Chosen with people who were either brand new to the faith or who were from a different faith. And most of them were from a Muslim background, a Middle
Yeah.
Eastern or
Yeah.
African. So their context was so much more closer to the
Yeah.
context that
Yeah,
Jesus
that's
was
the
in.
ironic thing.
And I remember one time I had these friends from Iran that were over for dinner, and we were talking. We had either gone to a church and heard the story of the
Yeah.
woman that breaks
Yep.
the alabaster jar and pours it on the, and she just like came unglued. Like she just started
Really
weeping at the table, and I
interesting.
was like, "What is going on over there?" And she's just like, "I would be killed in my country if I did that."
Wow.
She said, if I took
Yeah.
off my hair covering and I broke
Yeah.
and I touched a man who is
Yeah.
not my husband publicly, like even if I did this to my husband publicly, I would be in trouble. But I did this to somebody who was not my husband publicly, I would be killed. And she just started weeping. She's like, I can't even imagine being that brave. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just never, I knew it was extravagant. I just
Yeah.
don't think I understood the social risk. And I think there's a level of that happening here that we don't understand, both the social risk for the woman, but also Jesus's solidarity and social risk in being with her, aligning himself with her is like cementing his end.
Yeah. What
He
would that
knows
look
it,
like
and he
if,
knows it. Yeah.
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 That text of like, Jesus anointed by sinful woman is like how that often goes. Like a woman risks her life to show her devotion to Jesus.
Right. Yes. Or the story that every time the gospel is preached will be told.
Yeah. Like literally the thing that
Literally the words
Jesus
of Jesus.
says.
Yeah, maybe that could be the takeaway. Oh, we're getting into another scripture.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been awesome, and we keep challenging you. Rethink it. What would you name it? And I think I might name it different things in different seasons and different things that I'm going through. But this is that idea of let the Spirit lead you through the text and think about it through a different lens in a different way. I didn't even share, James. This is one of my big aha moments where I was reading the scripture and I felt the Spirit ask me, who are you relating to? And I said, of course, well, the woman.
Obviously,
And then
the
he
woman.
said, oh, yeah, because you've often been without your rights and stripped naked and threatened to be stoned. And
Like, oh
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, one time some guy looked at me weird, so
It's sort of the same.
Yeah. And so he's like, pick another group, So then I do it again. And he's like, who did you pick? And I'm like, I picked Jesus. And then we go through that again because you have a lot in common with the Middle Eastern rabbi. Blah, blah, blah. So then he's like, pick somebody else. And then I'm going through.
There's
And then
only
I
one
literally,
other
I'm
group
like,
of people.
no, I'm like, the rocks. I picked the rocks. Because I don't want to pick those religious people. And then that's when I really had this aha moment where God said to me, you have more in common with these religious people than anyone else in the scriptural account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, read it again.
Yeah.
And I started a club called Pharisees Anonymous, which I'm a recovering Pharisee, is what I figured out.
Yeah.
And really, and I mean it, I mean that invitation, Jesus is not just freeing the woman, he's freeing the men.
Yeah.
He's freeing
Yeah.
them from their
Yeah.
own hypocrisy, from their own religious tendencies, from their own, like, I've got to use people to prove my point. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started rereading the scriptures from the perspective of a Pharisee. And
Mm.
it was mind-blowing because I realized I always thought Jesus had two basic missions. One was to save the world and the other was to stick it to the Pharisees.
Mm.
And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, like Jesus went to eat with them. Like
Yeah.
Jesus went
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
speak
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
them. Jesus met with them at night. Like Jesus literally like went out of his way to be available
He's
to the
their
religious.
friend. Like he's
He
friends with
wants to help
them.
them. He wants to help them. And
Yeah.
so that's the other piece in this is that they've really transformed the way that I saw this scripture and read it even because of course my own bias is going to be with the woman.
Mm.
But I think the men dropping their stones and walking away is also a freedom that happens. At
Mm.
least
Yeah.
it's an invitation for them to be free from this tendency of just like making everybody an enemy that they have to destroy. And I think somehow helping them to see humanity again and see people through a sacred lens and even themselves and reckon with
Mm.
their own capacity for harm within them. And anyway, so I've been in recovery since then. So this was the scripture that really helped me come to grips with my own
Wow.
capacity for, using religion for my own
Yeah.
self ego and advancement and defense. And
And
anyway,
I
so it
really
could be
appreciate
entitled
that.
Pharisees Anonymous. Welcome to the club.
I what a great yeah, a great note to end on, the humility involved there, because as you say, we all want to be the hero, or failing that, at least we want to be the person that Jesus is being nice to, and that's good. And there'll be times, and certainly there are people listening to this who 100% that's where you're at, and that absolutely, like, you identify, and it's good, and Jesus will find you there always, always, always. But yeah, there are times at my worst where maybe I have not treated people the way I should have treated them, and to justify it some other way. And that's what the Pharisees do, and we want to be better. And sometimes, yeah. And Jesus
And
says the same thing to me: go and leave my life as sin behind me as well.
yeah, and you can drop your rocks. That's the other thing. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's AKA drop your rocks, man.
And it's easy. Like, it's easier to drop a rock
Yeah.
than hold a rock. Like, that's the
Yeah.
invitation is to life, right? The invitation is to my
Yeah.
yoke is easy, my burden is light. Stop carrying these rocks around, you madman.
Wow. Wow. It's endless. This is why the word is living.
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing is to just keep in mind it's the living word. It's spirit breathed, which means that it's always got life for us. And whatever perspective you're coming, the need that you have, the angle you need to see, the person you need to relate to, that's all changing because God's speaking to you specifically. So remind yourself when you're reading the scriptures that there's an invitation. And sometimes it helps me to just pray before I read and say, like, God, show me. Speak to me so that you're showing me what it is that you have for me and what I could learn and discover. So
Yeah.
enjoy, guys. Enjoy. AKA, have a good time.
Right.